excellent, it says. Ah, yeah, it says. Right, so that one can be paused. That one's working fine, and that one there. So it should be on. You should be hearing me. I won't be able to read the chat on this one. That's the problem. I wonder if I can try and get rid of that. Undock that. Let's see if I can find a way of chat. Would I get? No, see that chat's not going on there. Right. So that chat is not going to have it. So I'm going to have to go into this one, guys, and see you from that way. Hello, Lady Jane. How are you? I do apologise. I have to go into a separate section to see the writing because I can't get it to work on that one. It should be coming over. We start at 7, but I'm on OBS today, so I need to get that sorted. That's why I've started a bit early. So do apologise. Long as you can hear me. And then I've got to put the other sound in when they come in as well. But that's the council webcam anyway. That's got to go in. So we're just waiting for them to start, and then I've got to try and sort that feed out. Alright, I can see you all in. Right. Alright. It's gone to my YouTube streaming again. That's it. Oh, it should go to that. And it's not allowing it again. That's it. Yeah, that's it. It's because I keep changing it. So I do apologise. So it's the only way it's going to work. Can't seem to get that dock to work on there. Yeah, chat disabled. Don't know why. Don't know why that chat's disabled. And there's no way I can fix that no way I can fix that. So every time I go to that, it's going to go over to it, isn't it? Yeah, it's going to go over to it. Damn it! So I won't be able to see you. Great. What I'll have to do is I'll have to get rid of them. I won't be able to. I'll have to go to my phone and see you on my phone to type it because it's not allowing it for some reason. I don't know why. Go to the phone. Yeah. So turn that sound down and I should be able to see you on that. Yeah. Oh, you're setting your Chromebook up, right? I can see you on that now. Brilliant. Cozy cozy. So that should be right like that. And I need to, when they start, I need to go into there, blow that up, and then you should see a full screen. But they haven't started yet. I don't think they have. No. If you can hear the music in the background, it's only my brother playing music. Oh, bloke talking. And I can't seem to get that to want to work. Right. They should be starting to. Oh, you can't hear it. Okay, because I can see it coming up on my audio input capture. Don't worry. And it hasn't started yet. They haven't come up. So hopefully this screen will go in a minute. I'm going to blow it up as much as I can so it goes to the full screen. Yeah. Hope you've been alright, Lady Jane, because I've been seeing you around. You're pretty good. The stuff that you do and all that. You're aha, here we go. full screen. Oh no, full screen on that. Ah. Damn it, won't be able to go full screen.
Good evening. I would like to welcome members to the extraordinary council meeting.
Damn it, won't be able to
Can I ask members, when speaking, to speak directly into the microphone? This will enable members and members of the public to hear. Can I remind members and members of the public to place their mobile phones on silent and to stand where possible when speaking? Can I also remind those members who wish to speak this evening to keep their hands up until acknowledged by the Chief Executive?
I can't blow it out.
To remind members, the meeting is being live streamed and we welcome the members of the public in the gallery watching and listening to the council meeting tonight. I would like to remind all members of the council's adopted code of conduct for councillors which you agreed to and are expected to adhere to. Apologies of absence. Please note the apologies received on page 1 of the order paper. Are there any other apologies of absence?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, just Councillor Abbas as well. Hands his apologies.
Thank you. I'll leave it like that. I can't go into the...
Councillor Horrell.
I can't go into me into the picture.
Thank
and
you.
then come out of it, so it'll have to be like that, guys. So
Councillor Holloway.
Councillor C. Holloway.
So if I need to come out...
Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest to be made? Councillor Spade.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It would be inopportune if I didn't make the same point that I made last night at Cabinet, that I do have a concern that whatever the outcome of our decision tonight, there will be a potential impact on households of members of this council, because it will affect whether they're getting allowances or not. Our legal officer gave us an opinion last night that he was pretty sure it wasn't an interest, so I'm just putting on record I'm not sure, so I'm making that declaration here. It doesn't change anything about the way that I'm going to vote.
Thank you.
Can barely hear me. Oh.
Motion. Councillor Anderson submitted the requisition for this extraordinary meeting with the support of Councillors Allen, Benson, Cherry and Spade. Legal advice has been included on pages 3 and 4 of the order paper. Councillor Anderson, please read out and speak on the motion as printed on page 5 of the agenda. You have 5 minutes to speak.
There's no way I can blow that up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following the Government's request of 63 local authorities to indicate to the Secretary of State by the 15th of January 2026 whether they wish to seek postponement of their May 2026 local elections, Council resolves that this Council supports all out local elections taking place in May 2026 and asks the Cabinet to make a decision not to write to the Secretary of State seeking postponement of the May 2026 local elections. Did you say speak on it as well?
This is OBS.
Yeah, okay. Madam Mayor, last year, the then Secretary of State, Angela Rayner, announced that government would be cancelling elections up and down this country, including here in Thurrock. I think the word she used at the time was postponed. Nevertheless, whatever you want to call it, they didn't take place. She said at the time that elections would be postponed for no more than 12 months, yet here we are at the beginning of 2026 faced with yet another cancelled election.
Behind, if you have a look.
Now,
that's Gary Byrne.
Unfortunately at the moment the Labour Group's friends in Westminster don't really know what they're doing. They've blown up their own self-imposed timetable for local government reorganisation and devolution. They tell us that they're cancelling elections but for no more than 12 months. But then they tell us, actually, we think we're going to do it again. It's fine, though, because you're definitely going to get a vote for a new mayor of Essex. But actually now we've decided that that election isn't going to be held either. At the moment, government resembles a penguin driving a Segway through a bear trap factory. They speed head-on into disaster after disaster and leave a big mess wherever it is that they go. Now, a couple of years ago, Councillor Worrell said that elections cannot be contingent on events, quote, down the never, never. She was referring at the time to a boundary review that was rather promptly conducted and completed in around a year. So how can we seriously sit here tonight and suggest that we make an election contingent on a process whose timetable has already been ripped up twice, and I don't think anyone in this room would be surprised if it was ripped up again. Now, in the letter from the Minister to leaders of councils, she makes rather clearly the point that if elections are to be cancelled, then they will need reasons related to capacity constraints. A report was provided to Cabinet yesterday that was discussed and questions were asked on. It was full of statement and claim, but not much evidence and data. And for a decision this momentous, I think that it's not unreasonable to ask for a bit of evidence and data. I'm not going to labour on that point, though, because, frankly, even if you did provide it, I probably wouldn't pay an awful lot of attention to it, and that's because ultimately the rationale for cancelling elections this year, I think, is an illegitimate one. That's not just me making a political point. Obviously, Councillor Coxall briefly mentioned at last night's meeting that the Electoral Commission, and Councillor Worrell referred to the Electoral Commission last night as just another organisation. They aren't just another organisation. They are the apparently independent organisation tasked with facilitating free and fair elections in this country, and they have labelled this process that we're undergoing insofar as cancelling elections for reasons related to capacity constraints as illegitimate. I wanted to make a point about last night's Cabinet meeting because Councillor Spate raised a point with regard to predetermination. I sat at that meeting, the Cabinet were across from me, and they listened, it would seem, intently. There was no scribbling going on, there was no typing going on, yet when called upon, not all, but about half of Cabinet then proceeded to do this and read from a script. If you didn't write, if you didn't scribble, if you didn't type through that meeting, I'd suggest you probably entered that meeting somewhat predetermined. That's not good.
I'll have to have a look at that later.
We don't like that. And finally, Madam Mayor, the first question I asked yesterday was with regard to a couple of notices that should have been published on the Council's website. I did speak to officers after that meeting and asked for those to be sent to me. I'm not trying to be facetious here, but my understanding is if they haven't been published, then that decision may well have been taken outside the confines of the law. So, again, if those links to those notices on the Council's website could be sent to me at somebody's earliest convenience, I'd be much appreciative.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded? Councillor Benson. Would you like to speak now or reserve your right until later in the debate?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to defer it till later in the debate.
Thank you. I have received an amendment to the motion from Councillor Spate, and this has been included in the order paper. Councillor Spate, please read out and speak on your amendment. You have 4 minutes.
4 minutes now.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll read the amendments out first. Didn't think that came out in me 4 minutes. This council recommends that the leaders' representations to the Secretary of State include a proposal that the Secretary of State takes all steps necessary to maintain the current ward boundaries in Thurrock and reintroduces a scheme of elections in May 2026 based on a system of a third of councillors being elected to those seats that were previously elected in 2022. By doing that, it will be possible to hold the previously scheduled elections on May the 7th in Ailey and Uplands, Bellas, Chadwell, St Mary, Grays, Riverside, Grays, Thurrock, Little Thurrock, Blackshots, Little Thurrock Rectory, Ockenden, Orsett, South Chafford, Stamford East and Corringham Town, Stifford Clays, Homesteads, Tilbury Riverside and Thurrock Park, Tilbury St Chad's and West Thurrock and South Stifford. This allows real consistent democracy to be seen in Thurrock and recognises the votes made under the democratic process in 2022. It means no councillors will serve Thurrock Council without an electoral mandate. It might be something that the 16 members due for election might think on, and in the spirit of democracy they could circumvent any legal issues by giving notice of resignation so we can have by-elections which can be held without having to trouble the Local Government Boundary Commission or set parliamentary legislation aside. And whether I get through this, I don't know. I'm proposing this motion because while I see real benefit from local government reorganisation, and I will be glad to see this bankrupt, dysfunctional council confined to history, I also believe in the absolute principles of democracy. One of the strong principles is for residents in this country to elect local representatives to serve on their local council for fixed periods. On 4th of May 2023, I was honoured and privileged to be elected to represent Stamford West, and in the years since I have done my damnedest to do my best for the ward and for Thurrock as a whole. In my time in office, 986 days, I have attended 76 official meetings of council or committees and countless other working and review groups and many meetings with outside bodies, and I've helped many local people. I think I've made a difference, and I certainly feel I know a lot more now than I did in my first 6 months. I'm not sure I'm wiser, but I'm certainly more informed. I have challenged and I have argued, and at times I've been wrong and I've said sorry, but I repeat, I think I've made a contribution. That little eulogy is not to blow sugar at my backside, but it's to show that it takes time to fulfil the role. Though they have never said the words, we have before us the prospect of Labour denying residents the right to vote by cancelling May's elections. I recognise merit in the argument that LGR needs to be a priority, but I don't think it comes at the expense of democracy. If all elections are off, we are going to have 16 councillors, including the leader and others, serving on this council with no electoral mandate. That is not democracy. But if we have all-out elections, 33 councillors will be kicked out of their seats before their elected time is up. That is not democracy. We need a compromise, and there is one staring us in the face. 16 councillors are due to end their term in May. They have had the opportunity to fulfil their election pledges and do their duty to their wards. Their time will be up. Some will want to stand again, some won't, but their democratic time will be up. If elections are held in their wards, all eligible residents in 16 wards will have the opportunity to vote, to have their say, to pass judgment, to express an opinion. That's democracy. If we do that, this council will not have any squatters in seats. There will be some new blood, and that will affect the capacity of elected members because, as I've said, it takes time to learn the job. But 33 experienced members will be by their side to help and guide them. It's a compromise, but it's a democratic one. It won't break the chain that has been created around LGR. In this council, at the last count, we have 77 senior officers of assistant director or head of service level, most getting paid more than £100,000 a year. The real figure will be higher than that. So we're spending millions and millions a month on top-class officers. I'm sure they will be able to cope with the hump that an election by Thursday brings. We won't have a chasm of uncertainty. We will have some continuity, and we'll also have democracy. I'll sit down as I'm over my time.
Thank you, Councillor Spate. Is the amendment seconded? Thank you. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to speak now, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In 2023, when the best value inspection called for all-out elections in Thurrock as soon as possible, I supported that. I did so because the report made it clear our governance needed a fresh start and a clear mandate from the people. Today, we find ourselves at another crossroads. And while the circumstances have shifted from the inspection to a county-wide LGR, the landscape has changed and our future is now linked to a wider Essex area. I want to be clear, I support LGR. Authorities must evolve and deliver high-quality services across new geographical footprints. And I share the views of Councillor George Coxwell and others when this was first introduced. The scale and timelines were incredibly ambitious, and this has proved true. However, in the long term, this is the only option on the table for residents. We are told that postponing the 2026 elections will allow officers and members to focus entirely on the transition. I see the logic in that. The workload is immense, but we must weigh administrative convenience against democratic legitimacy. I cannot support a situation where members outstay the mandates in which they originally voted in. A mandate is the agreement with the voter and it has an expiry date. The compromise. There are 16 seats naturally due for election this May, and whilst I'm fully aware of the legal hurdles, such as ward boundary changes and the up-and-coming unitary shift, I believe we should pursue a way to let those votes happen. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to comment on the amendment or motion? Each member will get 4 minutes to speak. Councillor Byrne.
Hey!
Madam Mayor, yes, there are two options on the table. Councillor Spate's motion can be argued is the most democratic. On paper, I would agree with this, but last night we were told it's not on the table, it's not deliverable, it's not an option. So where do we? I don't know where we stand on this. If we could actually be voting for something that is not legal and could not happen. So I'm a bit up in the air with all that. It would be favourable to a lot of us. I'm not up for this year, so it's not going to matter to me. So I could say, I'll go with that, and tomorrow on Facebook I could say I'll vote for elections and get away with it. So is it not, as the case what Alex has put in, all 49 of us would have to say, I'm up for election, I'm up, I want all out, so I don't. So if Neil withdrew his motion, then they'd be all up in the air. So I'm really confused. I don't know what way to vote, because I support Neil's one, but I can see Alex's motion is probably more fair. So, and his one would be legal, and Neil's one, I don't know. So that's where I stand at the moment. So I don't know. I even still don't know how I'm going to vote. I'm still going to listen to what everybody says, then I'm going to make my mind up.
Well,
Does anybody else wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
oh,
I can't support the motion of Councillor Anderson simply because I don't think it's the right time to
well.
reform. Would probably win.
You
There's
don't
no
even-
two ways about
yeah, you
that.
don't
But
even
it
live
isn't
here,
the
mate.
right time for a change at 49. What's going on with council at the moment? You know, we've got intervention. We're different than a lot of other councils, and I can see what he's saying, all 49 out, but I think that horse is bolted, because realistically, residents asked for all 49 to be chucked out of council back in 21 and then again in 22, when this council found itself in a financial situation of which Councillor Anderson was part of that machinery. That's when the residents wanted all
He's
49
right, he is
councillors
right. I can't
gone.
have a go at him.
So I think that horse is bolted. I think we're too close now to, let's be honest, this council is winding down. 2 years, it will be no more. Now, the thing being is this. I can go back, and I was in your position, Councillor Anderson, in 2016. And I was in a party which was Reform Mark 1 called UKIP. And at 2016 election, we lost running this council by one single vote in the whole of the borough. One single vote, and that was in Stifford Clays. It was exciting to think that we could have been running council at Blackshot. Sorry, Councillor Kent, I'll be corrected. It's next door. And though it was exciting, to be truthful, I was shaking in my boots. Because I've been a councillor for a couple of years, I've got to realise how council, and started to understand how council operates. And it isn't that easy coming in and just sitting here and thinking, right, I'm a councillor, off we go. It doesn't work like that. I sat down here when I first got elected and I thought, God, what have I let myself in for here? And being a new party, or whatever we was classed in, I was left to my own devices as to find out who was who, what was what, and how to get on with things. We didn't even know how to vote in the chamber at the first meeting. That's how bad things were. So I'm saying be careful what you wish for, Councillor Anderson, because when I look back now, they call that whole thing hindsight. If UKIP would have got in 2016, can you imagine what the press would have said? Because that was the term when another party got in and we got in all this financial trouble. So that was 2016 onwards, that would have been UKIP and we would have got slaughtered.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to you, this is not the right time for reform to be taking this when there's so much going on at council. You need to get this stabilised now, get this through and try again when you're better placed to come back. Thank you.
Well,
Councillor Coxall.
but you're taking the vote
Thank you,
away
Madam
from
Mayor,
us.
and thank you, Councillor Spate and Councillor Anderson, for bringing the motions this evening. I think I'll speak quickly to the amendment first. I can see exactly what you're trying to do here, Councillor Spate, but I don't myself grasp how we can actually do something that isn't feasibly legally possible at this time. The thirds have never been on the table, and it's not something that can just go on the table now. Particularly that the BVI has said this council requires an all-out election. That therefore we had the order to change. We accelerated the boundary process to facilitate that all-out election.
Come on, we've got to vote.
Now going to say that we can go to thirds when the reasons to get there are very well documented. We need a consultation. We need to then do a boundary review again. We saw what Basildon tried to do when they did it. They moved from all-outs back to thirds, and then last year changed again to all-outs. But there was a documented process. Admittedly, the leader was looking for a way to kick elections down the can, but that's another political point. But just on what I'm seeing here with your amendment, I just don't see how it can be possible when we know that it's just not legally correct. But while that is, I'll be voting against Councillor Spate's motion. My group and myself will be voting for Councillor Anderson's motion. I think the views that we spoke about at Cabinet last night, I raised, I think particularly the Electoral Commission, and I know the leader has mentioned that the Electoral Commission's position and she gave her view on how that is. But for me, they were very clear. They were set up in 2001 to manage our elections, and therefore that position is that if they're saying that capacity concerns are not a legitimate reason, I am urged to actually side with them on that. That's notwithstanding my previous views saying that, I think as Councillor Anderson's raised, what I've mentioned is that we are being very ambitious with LGR. LGR is a fantastic opportunity, but that is on the basis that we actually do deliver what we need to in that timescale. I'm just very fearful that so far the MCA was kicked down the road again, or being kicked down the road for a second time because it hasn't been legislated for. That is, if they can't legislate, if the Labour government can't legislate in time to get the MCA set up, I've got very big reservations about whether or not we can get everything done for LGR across Essex on the basis that if we postpone. I myself do not grasp that argument, and I'm still, as I say, I've never been comfortable with the idea that we can postpone elections, and the government have been much more open about offering the idea out in the last year to try to try and achieve their goal. And still, I think that we are in a position where if we knew what we were actually going to be signing up for, and that has been the difference in all the cases that had postponements, they were very clear. For in North Yorkshire, it was obvious that what would happen is districts would abolish and everyone goes up to a council unitary. Buckinghamshire was a mass merge into one, and that was the view that was the proposal they had going into that reason for postponement. Here, we're going to ask for postpone, and we will then likely get a response for the LGR consultation after that. So we're postponing when we don't know what the end product is. And the knock-on effect of that is if we postpone in May, we're going to obviously then postpone in 27. I think the ministers will just take that executive decision themselves because we'll be electing to an old council
of course they're going to do that. Exactly.
Smashed up, merged, whatever way we're going to have.
Totally agree.
On the basis we also elect a new shadow authority on different boundaries with could be different candidates. It will become very complicated for the electorate. So I think we shouldn't really just say that we're kicking the can down the road just to postpone this year. We should be honest and say if we do postpone this year, we won't be getting elections likely in May 27.
You're mad.
Thank you. Councillor Benson, do you wish to speak?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And please indulge me in my little quiz game. Who said this? It is clear we must move to all-out elections, and we should do so as quickly as possible. It is no surprise the Leader of the Council wants to stall and push the all-out elections into the long grass. It is important we don't allow that to happen. Councillor John Kent. Thurrock residents deserve the right to vote in all-out elections as soon as possible. Councillor Muldowney. But now we're worried we're going to go to fallout elections next year. It's all our improvement plan to actually work and deliver, regardless of what party. It's what's needed here, and we keep calling for that. A 4-year and full-out election. Councillor Lee Watson. So what I say is bring it on. It's no good kicking it into the long grass. Tonight we've agreed the long grass is good for the environment, but it's not good for the democracy. Councillor Kerrin. The time is right, the time is now. Don't hook it onto something down and never, never. We need to do it now. I just don't know why you're pushing it down the road, when the right thing is to actually do the right thing. The residents have been calling for it on social media, answering news reports. They want it in our surgeries, walking down the streets. Residents want their say, and they haven't had it. Next May should do the right thing tonight and vote for an election. And that was the leader. Yet 3 out of these 5 voted last night for council elections this year. Last year's were cancelled, believing they were going to be held this year. And I believe all out this year.
Thank you, Councillor Benson. Councillor Worrell, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to say that I do understand the reason why Councillor Spate has brought this amendment to the table. For those who were not at Cabinet last night, Councillor Jones asked me a valid question as to why we could not revert to thirds last July, and he asked me what I'd done about it as well, you know, to find out if we could revert back to thirds. So last July, this was my position too, and I asked MHCLG whether we could revert to elections by 1/3. My reason was very simple. Thurrock would no longer exist as we moved into a new unitary authority, and we'd not use the new boundaries. So much the same as, I guess, Councillor Spate's position, and I was told a very firm no. In Greater Essex, local government boundary reviews were completed for Essex County Council and for Thurrock. They passed through all government legislation, and the Secretary of State cannot reverse them. Southend-on-Sea and Colchester had their reviews paused, so they will be now going to, if they go to elections in May, they will go on their thirds. And preliminary government boundary reviews activity had also started in Chelmsford and Malden ahead of the 25-26, but because they hadn't progressed, theirs were paused too. So to be clear, if it does proceed to elections, it will be all 49 seats.
So what?
Not 16 seats, not
so
by
what?
a third.
These are still voting.
Those 49 councillors will not serve a 4-year term because Thurrock will cease to exist as a council. We will have elections to the new unitary authorities in 2027.
Tactics.
So I also want to talk about all 49 councillors have been provided with legal advice, and what they should consider alongside the amendment that Councillor Spate has presented here tonight. By disregarding this advice and voting for the amendment from Councillor Spate, you will be voting for a motion that cannot be enacted. This is legal advice confirms 2 things. The Secretary of State does not have the power to change councils' elections back to 1/3. Council had a boundary review, it completed it, it's now statute. It's legislation that we are all out elections. And whilst the Council has the power to resolve to move to elections by thirds, the statutory process cannot be completed by May 2026. So to finish, even if this amendment found the Chamber's support, it is not something we could enact tomorrow. So for that reason, I will be voting against Councillor Spate's amendment and would urge others to do the same. And just to pick up on Councillor Anderson's motion, so Councillor Coxall first, last night you talked about the pace of delivering LGR, yet you're trying to get your group to vote for something that takes 4 to 6 months out of what is already, you're saying, a pressurised time to deliver LGR against the government's timescale. That feels like, you know, you're voting against, you know, the machine itself. And to finish that, Cabinet discussed in depth last night, we did listen. You know, it wasn't everybody had considered the report, and I'd asked them to make their remarks upon the report that had given to them, and there was remarks on, and we did consider what you said. So, and that outcome would be that we would be writing to the Secretary of State to ask them to, him to consider the capacity issue around delivering LGR against the government's tight timescales. So we voted that we would be sending that letter. I did say that other people's concerns would be in the body of that letter, so we would cover council's concerns. And that letter still stands, and that letter will go, that this council will be writing to the Secretary of State as Cabinet agreed last night. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're mad.
Thank you, Councillor Worrell. Councillor Spate, as mover of the amendment, do you wish to have the right to reply? You have 2 minutes to speak.
2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's going to be an interesting few minutes. As I said earlier on,
You've only got 153.
I'm trying to avoid a chasm of uncertainty and have some continuity. Officers have told me, and they've told you, that it's impossible to have elections by thirds because we need to change rules laid down in Parliament. Well, democracy includes Parliament, or at least I believe it does. Please don't tell me there isn't the capacity in Westminster to make a change. We can go to war at the drop of a hat.
Yes.
We can have major national policy decisions made very quickly on a whim. I'm sure we can cancel a few changes to election legislation in a small borough like Thurrock. And I will remind officers in democratic services, in I think it was February this year, it might have been March, I asked if the legislation for boundary changes was in place. And I was told, oh, we don't know. I went back and looked it up, and yes, they'd been in Parliament and they'd gone through in January 2025. But this council, which now tells us it knows everything, didn't know at the time. I believe it's worth trying to see if you can change that. I really do. I don't buy the argument from officers it can't be done. What I buy is that they won't do it, or they won't try to do it.
45.
Last night, Councillor Worrell told us that LGR was a once-in-a-lifetime change for Thurrock. Well, she appears to have forgotten that in 1998 we had another once-in-a-lifetime moment when Thurrock changed from a small district to a very large unitary with massive responsibility. We did that and coped with an all-out election. Ammunition, I'm sure, that Councillor Anderson may well use. As I said earlier, it's a matter of won't, not can't, but above all else, it's about showing the face of democracy. And just to talk about legal opinion, I sat in on a legal meeting 2 days ago when a KC employed by this council argued a legal point, a written statute, with another KC representing somebody who's going against the council. They argued for hours. They could not resolve it. Neither one knew who was right. So you pay your money, you take your chance. There you go. It's up to the members now.
Thank you, Councillor Spate. Councillor Anderson, do you wish to have your right to reply? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I've made the position of myself and our group clear over both last night and tonight. I will just pick up on one or two things that Councillor Jones mentioned. First of all, he said that he doesn't think it's the right time for reform to take over this council. That's not his decision.
It's not his decision, no, but it's our decision,
he may well
mate.
think that. He's welcome to go to the electorate, make that argument, tell them how terribly inexperienced we are, and win his seat. That's the democratic process. He also mentioned bolted horses. The only horse that's bolted is this idea that we can have a third election. He reminds me a bit of one of those Japanese soldiers that they found in the jungle like 30 years after the end of the Second World War, still fighting. Look, thirds was an argument, a discussion we had a couple of years ago. The decision was made a couple of years ago, and you sit here going, thirds. No. The decision is all-out elections or no elections. Obviously, we support the former. I would encourage everyone else to, but, you know, I know how this is going to end.
Thank you. We will now proceed to the vote. First, we will vote on the amendment. All those members in favour of the amendment, can you show your hands? All those against? Thank you. Is there any abstentions? No? No, no abstention. Okay. Yeah. As the amendment was lost, I will now ask you to vote on the substantive motion.
Here we go. Lost
All
it,
those
guys.
members in favour of the substantive motion. Okay. All those against?
Whatever that means.
Thank you. So as the motion falls, there was 20 against and 19 for.
Someone's just left. Can we not, like,
Wait for them to come back, yes.
Jackie Maney's not in the room?
No, I'm sorry, she should have been in the room at the time of the count, of the vote. You know, we'd done the vote, I
Here we
said
go.
we're going to move into the vote, and that was
Here
that.
we go.
I'm running this meeting, and I said that's what stands. I'm sorry. This concludes the business of the meeting this evening, and I now declare the meeting closed
Right.
at 8.
Finished, are we? Yeah, meeting's concluded. Rightio, guys, that's going to be it for us. We've lost it. So, I will see you all again. Take care.